Hola! Before I get into today's manga, I'd like to talk about Miura Kentaro for a second. So if you don't want to listen to that, you can skip ahead, there are timestamps below. So, as you've all probably heard by now, Miura Kentaro has passed. And like many others, I'm a huge Berserk fan, so his death is especially tragic to me. I wouldn't have minded waiting for a long time for Berserk to finish. But I always personally had the feeling that it would never be finished, but I thought that Miura would quit. Like, I thought he'd quit due to health reasons and that it's just too much for him. But that's not how things went. Anyways, I'm really sad. My condolences to his family and my gratitude to one of the greatest mangaka ever. I'm sorry to start with something so depressing. Let's move on for now. Alright, so today's manga is called Yagate kimi ni naru, or Bloom Into You. It is by Nakatani Nio and it was published from 2015 until 2019 and it has 8 volumes. And first of all, I'd like to mention here that I really like the English title Bloom Into You. I think it's a very nice fit. And also, this is the second girls' love story I've ever read. Well, after Citrus, which I didn't like that much. So what is this one about? Our protagonists are Yu and her senpai Toko. Yu doesn't know which club activities to join at school, so her teacher suggests why not try student council. She isn't too psyched about this at first, but figures it wouldn't hurt to just try it out at least. On her way there, she accidentally witnesses Toko reject some guy. Toko notices her and introduces herself, and it turns out that she's actually the head of the student council. Having met, Yu asks her friends what kind of person Toko is, and everyone tells her that she's this amazing person who succeeds at everything and, is also super nice to everyone. They also tell her that she's rejected every guy who's confessed to her, which makes Yu really wonder about her. That's why we learn that Yu has very similar feelings towards love, I guess. She doesn't really understand what it means to like someone that way and what it means to think of someone as special, and she doubted if she could ever fall in love with someone like everyone else. She has a talk about this with Toko, who assures her that she's fine the way she is. Yu then asks her if she's the same, and Toko says no because she thinks that she could like Yu. And so this is the basic premise and where the real story starts. So at first I wasn't too impressed with everything, and I think that's because everybody just hyped this manga up so much that that's just a natural outcome. But I have to say, I do think it's pretty good, especially for its genre. The characters have layers to them, although I couldn't really get into them somehow. I don't know, I just didn't personally like them, but whatever. That doesn't mean that I think they're bad characters, because I don't. It's just my subjective perception. Anyways, this story isn't just about falling in love and whatnot. It's really about accepting who you are as a whole. Toko, for example, has trouble showing people the side of her that isn't so perfect because she feels like everybody is expecting the best of her anyways, constantly. And that is something that Yu doesn't, and that's why Toko feels so drawn to her, because she feels like she can, put off her mask and... let's not mention masks for a while, please. Because she feels like Yu isn't expecting anything of her. That's why she can let her guard down and just be herself, But it's not just other people's expectations of her. It's also what Toko expects of herself. Due to, I'm trying not to spoil her here, due to personal reasons, Toko has this image that she desperately tries to live up to, and without that, she doesn't even know who she is or who she could potentially be. Yu challenges this behavior, which makes Toko uncomfortable, but she eventually realizes that she's right. One thing that I really liked was the play that the student council staged. and that Toko really wanted to do. An observing and insightful student wrote an original script with characters that she based on the members of the student council. And this play deals with a girl who's had an accident, or I don't even remember, but she's lost her memory and she gets visited in the hospital by her friend, her brother, and her lover. And each of them paints a completely different picture of that girl. So she has like 3 versions of herself, and she doesn't know which one she really is, or wants to decide to be again from now on. And the way they solved this at the end was just such a good idea. And not only that, it also shows that art reveals the truth, you know? The relationship between Yu and Toko progresses naturally, and there's no unnecessary drama or misunderstandings, except for once towards the end, but it's only once, so it's forgivable. But other than that, the communication between the two of them was very normal and healthy, I'd say. The side characters were also pretty good. I wouldn't have minded knowing a little more about them. And yeah, the overall pacing of the story was just right in my opinion. But yeah, I can't talk about more thoughts too much, I guess, without spoiling, so that's where I'll stop. And just one more comment about the art. It's not a style that I'm personally into, but at least the overall quality is good and consistent. It's one of those styles that are nice and clean looking, but it doesn't really stand out to me. Like if I saw this in a bookstore somewhere, I wouldn't look at it twice, but yeah, that's just my personal preference. Overall, I think it's a good manga, and the only issue I have with it is that I just couldn't connect with it emotionally, you know what I mean? Like the spark just wasn't there, if you will. I can't put my finger on it, it's just how I felt, or rather didn't feel. Even though in my head I was like, yeah, that's good. I mean, there were some exceptions. There were scenes where I felt more involved or more into it, but like overall I just didn't feel that much. Like rationally I thought it was good, but it's just, I don't know, it's just one of those things. It's just like when you when you're trying to date somebody or something, and you know, on paper everything should be great, but you just can't get into them for some reason. There's no chemistry. I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's why I'm not very passionate talking about this, but yeah. Otherwise, I would have probably said more about everything, because I know there is a lot to talk about in theory, but I guess I wanted to talk about this because everybody just kept telling me to read it, and so I did, and that's my opinion. But that is it for this week. I hope everyone has a great day, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.